Welcome to another review. This review, I'm reviewing the Invasion TV show crossover between the four superhero shows Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. I should kind of point out that Supergirl is more like a prelude to this very crossover because it was kind of hinted at early on that the only connection that Supergirl would have to this crossover is just Cisco and Barry just showing up on Supergirl's Earth, which they confirmed in part 2 as Earth 38. So they recruited her. Now the episode itself, Medusa, was a pretty good episode, and you got a chance to see Hank Henshaw in action once again. For I believe the second episode, this one gets a little more of action. One thing I'm still hoping though is that Hank Henshaw could come back and take on Superman himself. That would be interesting. And of course, also, you finally get a chance to see, it looked like that Maggie Sawyer and Alex Danvers look like they might become a couple because they kind of ended their scene with them making out. Which is the second time in the show they've actually done that. Okay, nothing much else to say about this one. Oh, also, Brenda Strong's character was finally revealed, I believe, in this very episode, that she was, in fact... Now, we already knew that she was leader of Cadmus. We did not know who this character was. And then we finally unveiled who this character was. Or is, excuse me. She is Lex and Lena's mother. Yep. Finally did that. Finally solved that question. Well, the Cadmus thing could be still a potential threat. And they're still looking for Jeremiah Danvers. But it's still a really good episode. And, of course, the ending kind of leads to this crossover. Now, simply put, the Flash episode kind of starts out... Now, basically, from this point forward, it's all spoilers for those of you who have not watched the episode yet. Now, the Supergirl one, I'm sure a lot of you probably have watched the Supergirl one, but I just gave the clip notes of who exactly these characters are from these episodes. But as for the ending of the Supergirl episode, that was kind of already unveiled. I think someone released that prior to the release of the episode, so we have a pretty good idea what's going on with that. Now, from this point forward, it's all spoilers when it comes to Invasion. Okay? Now, I should point out before I continue, is that even though this is a very loose adaptation of the 3-part miniseries Invasion, from what I can tell, the Flash episode is kind of I'd say an adaptation, loose adaptation of the first 2 issues, and the Legend of Tomorrow episode is probably an adaptation of part 3. Arrow is just the 100th episode for the series. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, these are in the comic show. The Atom. That's quite obvious because they have Ray Palmer there. The Flash, though. Interesting fact, when this crossover came back in 1990, Barry had been dead for 3 years. So I kind of include this, and of course Wally West. He was in the crossover as well, though he was definitely a speedster in the crossover, and he was the Flash. So I kind of keep these two separate, despite the fact they're kind of the same person in the crossover, but this one they're 2 separate people. The only people who are actually part of the crossover and the TV show and the comic is Heatwave, Wild Dog, and Firestorm. Though, in the case of Firestorm, it was Ronnie Raymond at the time, not Jefferson Jackson, though they changed him for the show simply because Robbie Amell had to leave the show due to the fact that he wanted to start a movie career. That's the reason why he left, and that's the reason why they killed off his Earth 1 version, and they also killed off his Earth 2 version, but there's a possibility it could be more in the future. But Jefferson Jackson pretty much kind of filled out exactly what Firestorm's role was in the comic. Now, as for the roles, how they were switched from the show to the comic. Now, obviously, Supergirl was a stand-in for her cousin, Superman, obviously. But the role Superman plays in the crossover, that went to Barry Allen. And as for Green Arrow, he was not in the crossover. For some reason, he was not. No explanation for it. And also the fact that he kind of fills in for Batman. That one's quite obvious right there. Heatwave was definitely in the crossover, but he was part of the Suicide Squad at that point. And of course, Wild Dog was part of the crossover for 2 to 3 issues, even though in the show he was only in like 1 part of the crossover. He was in the Air 100th episode. But these characters are the only ones who both are part of the comic version of the crossover and the TV show version, which I'm kind of glad they included the Atom and Firestorm because they were particularly big characters in the crossover. And I should point out that this first part technically does not happen in the comic. The whole thing, though, they did kind of loosely. You can kind of see that the Legend of Tomorrow episode is basically kind of mostly part 2 and part 3. Definitely that this first part, the whole evil heroes thing, that's really original to the show. And I got hands the special effects for this crossover. It was fantastic. They must have spent a lot of money on this crossover. And they must have saved their money for this big epic crossover because we got a chance to see space for the first time in the CW shows. Yeah. I mean, I think they used this level of special effects in Supergirl, definitely, but not very much. As we're showing space in the Arrowverse, that is a first. Seeing aliens, that's a first for the CW shows. Them kind of going to space, they kind of did that with Legends of Tomorrow, but they haven't actually shown actual space. Which I do praise the show for. And of course you had pretty much most of the characters. Now with the exception of the Team Arrow from the actual show, which is basically consisted of, on the show currently on Arrow, Team Arrow is consisted of, besides John Diggle, Felicity, and Oliver, it also includes Wild Dog, Ragman, Artemis, and Mr. Terrific. Now, Team Arrow, the other 3 vigilantes, for some reason Artemis was absent from this crossover. There was no explanation for it at all. They're only part of the Arrow 100 episode. I guess that they probably didn't want them, or they probably thought it would be too much, even though they got most of the Legends part of this crossover, and the only people part of Arrow who actually was part of all 3 episodes was Green Arrow, Diggle, and Felicity. These were the only 3 who were part of all 3, part of 3 of the 4 episodes. The only characters who were in all 4 episodes were Barry, Cisco, and Supergirl. Yep, just these 3 were the only ones. Though Supergirl's role in the Arrow episode was very minor. As a matter of fact, she only had I would say for screen time, she only appeared for 2 scenes in the entire episode. Now, most of the team who had powers, the most of the team with the exception of Flash and Green Arrow, they pretty much went out to rescue the president, while Flash and Green Arrow stayed at Star Labs, the actual Star Labs building they use in the Flash TV show. They've been using that since season 1. Actually, they've been using it since the pilot. They pretty much show off the news article that was first shown in the pilot episode of The Flash, and this has been the first time since season 1 that the article has been seen. And there's been a change to it thanks to the whole Flashpoint stuff. Iris is not the writer of the article, it's somebody else. But that's the only major change to it. It's pretty much the same exact article from what I can tell. They didn't have any close-ups of the article itself, but it's nice to see the actual article itself shown again. Even though Gideon can't be on the show anymore, surprisingly. Let's see. Well, of course, you got a chance to see Hero vs. Hero again. They kind of have done this before with the first Flash and Arrow crossover 2 years ago. So this is something a little more. This is something a little more to it. And heck, even it's revealed during the crossover, like Barry Flash tells Supergirl that for him it's not the first time he's been brainwashed. Trust me, I've been brainwashed before, so I've got experience with it. Yeah, during the first crossover, Rainbow Raider brainwashed the Flash to attack Green Arrow. Though it was only for 1 episode. Though they managed to cure it thanks to Supergirl having Barry sort of phase right through the actual thing, and having Supergirl destroy the actual brainwashing device. And one thing that kind of confused me about that is, how the heck did Barry find that place? Now, I get the fact he speared on the place, fine. But, how the heck did he know that was there? Did he read the script? Yeah, it's a minor thing when it comes to this crossover, but but it's still a good episode. And the episode ends with Green Arrow, Spartan, White Canary, Speedy, and the Atom being abducted by the Dominators. And that kind of leads into the 100th episode of Arrow. I get the reason why they picked these 5 people, simply because they came from Arrow. All of them did. Though in the case of all of them, Diggle, Spartan, Green Arrow, and Speedy made their debut back in Season 1. Sarah, even though she technically did appear in Season 1, the actress didn't start playing the character until Season 2. And as for Ray Palmer, he didn't show up until Season 3. Yep. And simply put, they brought back everybody. Though I have heard that, though it was nice to see John Barrowman on the show, this was the only time this whole season John Barrowman has actually been physically on the show itself. I get the reason why he was able to do it, simply because, well, he's already signed to be on the show. And it was nice to see Deathstroke again for the first of Season 3. Now, I have heard, this has been confirmed, that Manu Ben was not underneath that mask. It was a different actor. It would have been nice to see Manu Ben again, but I've heard he's a regular on 2 TV shows, so he can't do it right now. Pretty much you can kind of say that the third part of the crossover, despite the fact it really has nothing really much to do with Invasion anyways, it's basically kind of like in the background. It's like the whole point of this 100th episode, this episode of Arrow, is just to celebrate Arrow, not the crossover. The crossover is kind of like in the background. It's basically the filler part of the episode, while the main juice of this episode is celebrating the show. And pretty much they brought back three of the main villains, 3 of the 4 previous season villains. The only one they did not bring back was Ra's Al Ghul. Now they brought back Michael Merlin in his Dark Archer outfit. They brought back Deathstroke, obviously. They brought back Damien Dark, Miracruz soldiers, the Ghost soldiers from the previous season. Which kind of does beg the question: why could they bring back Ra's? He was, after all, a villain from the series, and they only had 3 of the 4 previous season villains. Yeah, that's something that kind of bugged me about it, was the fact that, they couldn't get Matt Noble to come back for this one episode. He was in the show, and despite his plan being really... I think I know the reason why that they did this. Because Season 3 was very unpopular with people. That's probably the reason why they didn't ask him to come back. But they brought back Damien Dark. I mean, some people think that Season 4 is just as bad as Season 3. I think it's an improvement. Season 5 is much better. It's like some people think, Season 3 and 4 are bad. It's like, Season 5 was the first good season since Season 2. Season 4 was an improvement on the show. Definitely it was. In this alternate reality, basically, where Oliver never went to the island, apparently Felicity is still operating out of the current cave, and Diggle is wearing the Green Arrow costume. First time I've seen him wear it since Season 3. Yeah. Though it's only the second time, it's only the third time the show he's actually put on the costume. Though the costume he's wearing, that's actually Arrow Season 1. That is the Season 1 costume. The costume he wore I believe just in Season 1. Though I don't know why no one calls us out on this. Did anybody notice the fact that Oliver basically changed his outfit? I mean, it's never been explained on screen. Now, in the previous season, he got rid of the long sleeves and switched to short sleeves. And then all of a sudden with this season, he's back to long sleeves? I mean, from what I can tell, it doesn't look like the Season 3 outfit that he had. It looks like it's a combination of the previous 2 seasons' costumes. It's like he's wearing the Season 4 costume, the Season 4 suit, mixed in with the other suits. Okay, I can kind of buy that. And how they were able to find Oliver was by having Cisco vibe, on the bow that Oliver had during the flashbacks when he was on the island. Also, I should point out, first episode of the whole season, no flashbacks. Yep. They do this once in a while for the Arrow show, where they've actually had it where an episode with no flashbacks. They did this also, I believe, in Season 1, where they went 2 episodes without any flashbacks. I think because it was a 100th episode of the series, they probably didn't necessarily need to have flashbacks. Though it kind of did bug me they couldn't bring back Shadow for this 100th episode. She technically was part of their show, even though she got killed off early on in the flashback in season 2. She got killed off in the flashback. I think it was like lower halfway through season 2. Pretty much, it's like only the present day stuff, nothing from the flashbacks, from what I can tell. But as for Tommy, now the reason why the actor couldn't come back to the show is simply for the fact that he is on Chicago Med, one of the spin-offs, one of the shows set in the same universe as Law and Order. Though Dick Wolf doesn't do the whole shared universe thing that much, not like on the Arrowverse, which is a lot more better. So he says, "Oh, he's a doctor in Chicago." That's basically Malcolm Merlyn basically put Easter egg people who are fans of Chicago MD, Chicago Med. But the 100th episode was actually pretty good, really good for a 100th episode. And as for how Damien died, Damien Darhk, he pretty much died the same way he did at the end of season 4, stabbed through the chest with an arrow. Though this time Sarah did it. I think the reason why they had her do it simply because, well, she wanted to pay back against Damien Darhk for killing her sister. And it was nice to see Katie Cassidy again as Laurel. And it was also, I had heard definitely that, I heard that she was coming back. I knew Deschler was coming back. And I knew that Suzanne Thompson was going to come back as Maura Queen. I did not know that Robert Queen was going to come back for this crossover, for this ended episode. That was actually a big, humongous surprise. I never expected that at all for him to come back. At all. I never expected. But it's 100th episode, so I'm actually quite happy with it. I would also love to see it if somehow Barry would take Oliver sometime, maybe in season 6, maybe if there is a season 6, or sometime in the future. Maybe Barry can take Oliver to Earth 2 and meet the Earth 2 version of Green Arrow. That would be nice, since in fact on Earth 2 was confirmed in season 2 of Flash that the Earth 2 Green Arrow is Robert Queen. Though a lot of people theorize that the reason why that is because in the miniseries Flashpoint, Thomas Wayne is Batman instead of Bruce Wayne. That's the only reason why that is the theory rolling around of why Andrew Kensberg did that for the Earth 2 version of, though he's called the Arrow. He never called himself the Green Arrow. Let's see. And I love the special, like I said, special books. Now it comes to the episode that aired last night, the part 3 of the crossover, which is, from what I can tell, it's a combination of of issues 2 and 3. The whole Heroes versus the Dominators and the Gene Bomb thing, which in the crossover that actually went off, and the hero and the metahumans start getting sick. And the heroes start getting sick. So this one they actually decided not to have that happen. But I love the fact they brought in the actual Gene Bomb, though I don't remember exactly what it looked like in the actual crossover, but it looked humongous. And it was nice to see that, and plus we got a chance, because it's Legends Tomorrow, it's a time travel show, so why not do some time traveling? 1951, perfectly fine. Let me think. And I also kind of think it's a little odd, though, that the douchey, that the sort of not the jerk's government agent from 1951 is the same one in present day that showed up in part 1 of the crossover. That it's the same guy. Okay. That's fine. And now I heard a rumor that originally the vice president was originally going to be Linda Carter was going to be the vice president on Earth 1. But they decided to change that because they thought it would look too confusing, because she's the president on the Supergirl show and her be the president this one, it'd be too confusing. Now this I can understand perfectly fine. It's different Earths, perfectly fine. Even though we do the completely characters, they said cancel and replace it with a different actress per se, and she only appeared for this one scene. It was nice. I thought it was so funny that even both Heatwave and Sarah can agree that the president is hot. Yeah. So I think the reason why that Heatwave basically kind of had Sarah agreed with him because Sarah is bisexual. That's the reason why. I love the Heroes versus the Dominators fight. It was great. But, like in Legends of Tomorrow, end of Season 1, they had the fight happen on a rooftop. They probably couldn't have a big ground battle because it'd probably be way too expensive. So they decided to have it on the rooftops of Vancouver. Having it on the rooftop, that was actually perfectly fine. And having where Supergirl and Flash goes across the country, takes out the Dominators, and of course Play had these little devices on all of them just to get rid of them. Perfectly fine. I enjoyed it. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, it was revealed just prior to the crossover that Professor Stein has a daughter, which is a time aberration, and Jackson and Stein basically agree to keep a secret from Wrestling Legends. Okay. I would think the Legends will allow him to keep his daughter because it's his daughter for crying out. Even though he's responsible for the creation of her. But one thing kind of bugged me though is that why couldn't he tell her? I mean, I get the fact he couldn't tell her she's a time aberration, but why not tell her that he's Firestorm, 1/2 Firestorm? I don't get it. I really don't. Maybe if they brought the character back, they probably could allow him to tell her that he is 1/2 of Firestorm. Unless somehow his wife told her. Her mother. It's a possibility. Let's see, what else? I love seeing the Hall of Justice. Now, this is the first time the Hall of Justice has ever been depicted in live action. And it looks great in live action. I would think that the producers of the Arrowverse, Greg Berlanti, Mark Guggenheim, Andrew Kensberg, definitely Jeff Johns, definitely, and so I would think all these guys who spent all that time creating the Hall of Justice, I would think they would not have it just for this one crossover. I have a feeling it might come back in the near future. Yeah, and seeing it now, I'm sure it probably took a lot. Now, it's something that the Hall of Justice, that somehow Barry Allen owns it because Barry Allen owns Star Labs. So, even though he quit being CSI in the episode just prior to this crossover, which was the episode where Kevin's awesome, by the way. Okay, so basically how he makes money now, because he quit being CSI, he makes money from Star Labs, basically because he inherited Star Labs from the Earth 1 Harrison Wells. Now, Earth 19 Harrison Wells was only in the first part of this crossover, and so was Wally. For some reason, because it's not their show, Wally and Earth 19 Harrison Wells could not physically appear for the other two crossovers, the other two episodes. Caitlin, on the other hand, she did appear for the Flash episode, and she did appear for Legends of Tomorrow in a very small role. It's like she's just there just to do techno stuff and work with Stein's daughter. That's really the whole point of her in the second half. Heck, she was practically wasted this crossover. She basically did jack squat in this crossover. At least that Ray Palmer got a chance to do something. And he was in 3 of the 4 parts, which I gotta praise Brandon Routh for doing a great job for this crossover. And heck, at the end of the Legends of Tomorrow episode, the final part, it was suggested that maybe that they should do this more often, working together as a full team, which could be a possibility. We could see the formation of the Justice League in the CW verse, in the Arrowverse. Will they call it that? They probably could. But knowing CW, apparently this is CW's fault, not Warner Bros. Fault. That apparently, people think I'm confused. Like, why is there Justice League movies? Why we have to have one in the show? Why is one in the show and why is one in the movies? Look, the one in the movies is a completely different lineup. The one in the movies is basically mostly based upon the New 52 lineup of the Justice League, minus Green Lantern, which I've heard a rumor he might show in the movies. But if they do, in fact, form a formation of this team, could we please have more heroes show up in the shows? And I kind of felt as though my only disappointment from this crossover is the fact that Hawkman and Hawkgirl could not show up for this crossover. They're in the Arrowverse. Even though, yeah, they left the team, they could have at least taken part in it. But maybe they couldn't get the two actors. Who knows? It would have been nice because they were actually part of the actual crossover, even though that the Thanagarians were absent from the storyline. It was just the Dominators, which they were the main antagonists of the Invasion storyline, so it kind of made sense just to have them and not the other species part of the Alien Alliance, because, well, Dominators actually did more stuff there. And also, there was nothing with the Mega Men in this crossover, because the Mega Men had their physical appearance in the show. I mean, thanks to this three-parter, the cosmic stuff has been opened up to the Arrowverse. It has. Could we see some more cosmic characters aside from Supergirl show up on the show, and of course, the Dominators? It's a possibility. I'll probably do my top 10 characters unless she show up in the Arrowverse. But that is what it is. Okay, so that's it for this review. Stay tuned for more reviews coming soon. And no, this is not part of some actual series I do, just a standalone review. I just feel like doing it because I just finished watching the crossover. Okay. Overall, I give the three parts actually dealt with the invasion. Part 1, I give that a 9 out of 10. It was a great episode. In the case of Part 2, which is the Arrow 100 episode, for an episode of Arrow, it was great. The invasion part was kind of in the background. The episode itself, I definitely also give a 9 out of 10, but the invasion stuff, nothing really to do with it. It's more basically celebrating Arrow. Out of the three parts, I think that of the three parts, Arrow was kind of the more weaker part of the crossover, because basically the invasion stuff was basically handled as the B plot of the episode. But overall, I felt as though that the Flash and Legends of Tomorrow episode were the stronger episodes as part of the actual main story for Invasion. But the Arrow episode was still good nonetheless. The whole crossover, I'd give a 9 out of 10 for great storytelling, great special effects, great acting in all of the actors who were in the show. The show had pretty good writing overall. It was a couple of little minor problems here and there. Basically, my only complaints with the crossover are very small, like how did Barry know the device was there? Why weren't the Hawks involved in this crossover? Let's see, what else? The Dominators were fine. I love the look of Dominators, and I love the fact that they kept the whole red spot on the forehead. I am so happy Mark Guggenheim kept that part of the actual design for these things. Even though he technically did design, he did say that the Dominators would be faithful to the comic counterparts, and I gotta agree. They actually were. So, the crossover itself, I give it a 9 out of 10. And I highly recommend anybody to watch this 4-part crossover. I would start with the Supergirl one, even though technically it doesn't much do anything with the Fortnite crossover, because it's just the ending of it, and plus also it's set on a different Earth. Now, originally they confirmed it's Earth CBS, but they have changed it to being Earth 38. Okay? So, until I see you all in my next video, I will see you there. Bye.